Hey guys, I'm Kim from Honey Trail Farm, and this is my 4th annual. I cannot believe that is real. I started doing this in 2022, not even thinking that anyone would watch. Maybe like a handful of people who really like tomatoes like me, but it is one of my most requested videos every year, which I'm happy to oblige because it's one of my favorite ones to make. This is a video solely for tomato people. This is for those of you that want pretty, beautiful, magical, majestic, lovely tomatoes. Tomatoes that make you feel something, you know? And that's not for everyone, so if it's not for you, I'll see you next time. But if it is for you, buckle up, get a snack, get a drink, be prepared because this is probably going to be a long video. I'm going to try to make this video with my sunglasses off, but there's no promises because I can't see anything. Right off the bat, I'm going to start with cherry tomatoes because it's the category with the least amount of things in it versus the slicer tomatoes. This is in no particular order. It's just whatever I pull out of the hat first. My favorite cherry tomato of all time is Sun Gold. There's another variety that's super similar called Sun Sugar. It's like a 1-inch orange, sweet as candy. The plant produces tons and tons. It's the only hybrid tomato that I'm growing this year because I'm back to all heirlooms. It's the only one that I splurge on and buy the hybrid seeds because it's that good. It's my favorite. I don't have a picture of it because the pack from Johnny's is blank. Okay, next up, Green Tiger. I grew a Lucky Tiger last year, and it has green with red striping. I grew it in the tunnel thinking that it wasn't going to crack. Oh, you guys, I can't. So sorry. I gotta put my glasses on. I grew it in the tunnel thinking that it wasn't going to crack because I can control the water. You get tomato cracking when there's too much water all at once. So when your tomato has been dry and then there's an influx of water, that's when you get the crack. So if you're growing outdoors and you see a storm coming in and you know you have ripe tomatoes, that's a great time to go harvest them. Even if they're unripe, as long as they're starting to blush, they'll ripen on your counter just fine. And that's a way that you can save them from splitting in the field and then bugs crawling in them and ruining them. So I'm growing this one instead of Lucky Tiger. It's probably almost exactly the same. There's just only so many cherry tomatoes that you need. So normally I really like small cherry tomatoes. Like I just want to pop the whole thing in my mouth. You kind of have to bite this in half and then it drips all over you, which I don't love. But I do love green tomatoes, so I like a tang. And so I think that this will be good. And also, I'm growing this specifically instead of Lucky Tiger because it says crack resistant. And that's what I need. Number 2, Rosella. I've grown this one in the past. It produces a ton of little tomatoes. They're my favorite size of tomatoes. And because I'm mainly growing that because I need this color. So my goal is to always have a beautiful basket of cherry tomatoes, just like all of the colors of the rainbow. Even if I don't love it, I have to. Next up, Queen of the Night. I grew this last year and I don't think I tasted a single one. Maybe one. Because I accidentally let all of my outdoor tomatoes die halfway through the season. But I had like 500 tomato plants between the indoor ones and the outdoor ones. That was a little too much. And that takes a lot for me to say, but that was a little too many for one person to maintain. But anytime I buy a new variety of tomato, I never sow every single seed because I know myself by this point. So there's a handful of seeds left in here so that I can try again in case I kill it or want to try it for a second year without knowing that it hasn't crossed with anything, because I do save tons of seeds, but I don't really prevent them from crossing. Most of the time, it's exactly what the plant was. you don't get that much variation, but once in a while you'll get a surprise like that's not what I planted. So I always hold a couple back of every new seed pack so that I can try again next year in case I mess it up. I don't have a seed pack for this. All I have is an envelope full of saved seed, but it's a super popular cherry tomato. It's one of my favorites. It's black cherry. Once again, it fills that dark cherry box. It's darker than the Roselle. It's more purple, whereas the other one's kind of like a smoky red. And it's a little bit bigger of a cherry tomato, but the flavor is amazing. It produces tons and tons. It's one of my favorite cherry tomatoes. This falls in the same category as Queen of the Night. I don't know that I even tried one of these last year, so I'm trying again. Dark orange muscat, because that's like a burnt orange cherry tomato and I need that color in my basket. It says packed with punch and juiciness. It's definitely one to try. I'll try it. This one I did get to taste last year and it was so good. So sweet. It's the apricot zebra. And the back of this pack says that it's disease resistant and wildly productive, which are definitely something that I need growing in a humid, hot place. We have very humid and hot summers, and so tomato plants, if I don't do any intervening, they're dead by August. And I've learned that the last 2 years that I've let my outdoor tomatoes suffer. They really need pruned and watered well in my area. The next one, and this one I did get to try last year and I love it. Orange cherry tomatoes might be my favorite flavor and color of tomato. It says it's balanced, swingy. I can't talk. It says that it has a balanced, tangy, sweet flavor. It's productive and it's resistant to cracking, all of which I need. Red centiflora. I used to grow this. I haven't grown this since I lived here, I don't think. I used to grow this when I was growing mainly in my mom's garden. It makes, like Berry's Crazy Cherry, how it puts on like big clusters, like clusters that have like 40, 50, 60, 70 tomato flowers on it. This is the red version. The flavor is nothing to write home about. It's just like a red cherry tomato flavor, but it makes tons and tons. And then you can pick the whole cluster, like snip the whole cluster off and put it, so it's fun and easy to harvest. I keep going back and forth in my head if I'm going to grow this, but I think that I am because it's a promise of tomatoes sooner. And I always want to play that game of how fast can I get tomatoes. But what I didn't know then that I know now, and I could have known it then, I was just not reading the seed pack. This is a determinate tomato. So when it says determinate, it ripens most of the tomatoes at once, or a couple different flushes, and then it's done. It's not like an indeterminate tomato that keeps growing taller and taller and producing new fruit. It'll produce a lot at once and then be done. So this might be one that would be good in a pot, maybe, if you're good at that. I'm not good at that because I always forget to water them. Oops. I'm trying this one again because I didn't get to taste it last year, but it's supposed to have really high sugar content, and that's what we want in a cherry tomato, right? You just want the sweetest little snack. One of my favorite cherry tomatoes. Like, if I couldn't get a hold of Sun Gold seeds, I think this is the closest one that I've tried to Sun Gold in sweetness. And it's Isis Candy. Not a good name, in the more recent years, but nevertheless, one of my favorites. Super productive and super sweet. Next up, black strawberry, because I need a dark cherry tomato, and so far I haven't been super pleased with, or the flavor's just not for me. The other black cherry tomatoes I've tried haven't been very flavorful in my garden. I don't know what it is, but one tasted like weirdly cinnamony. And I've tried that, one more times than I want to admit because I really wanted to like it. And I'm blanking on the name right now, but it's Brad from Wild Boar Farms, I think is what I'm thinking of. And he has two different varieties. One's a yellow and one's a red with dark shoulders, and I didn't like either one. And then I tried Indigo Pear Drops because it's dark and a fun shape, and I didn't like that one either. So maybe I'll like this one. Who knows? Okay, I'm trying Pink Tiger this year because I liked the other tigers. It says it has reasonable earliness and excellent flavor, which are also two things that you need in a cherry tomato. You need them as fast as possible and for them to taste good. Purple Bumblebee, I don't have a picture of. I just keep saving the seeds and putting them in here. It's okay. It's not my favorite, but it's purple and it's striped, so it fits the category. One that I will always grow, I really, really like this one, Brad's Atomic Grape. And this variety is a lot more crack resistant. There's another one called Blush, and I say another one, but it's just like shaped elongated like this. The flavor is excellent, but every single fruit on my plant cracks, so I've given up on it. But I like it, and it looks like a galaxy. Beautiful. I have to grow Berry's Crazy Cherry, and I'm not crazy on the flavor, like it's bland to me, but the production is so good, and the fruit clusters are so cute that I just keep growing it. I'm trying this one. This is like an old-timey cherry tomato. I can remember my mom growing these growing up. I'm not expecting a lot because I'm pretty sure they're pretty mild, so I might hate it, but I just have to do it for nostalgia's sake. I had to run inside because I forgot I had some late entries because I had ordered seeds. That's kind of why my video's late too, was because I was waiting on my order. Bing cherry tomato, I'm only growing this because I was watching another person's tomato video and they suggested this, so I'm gonna try it. It's just it says it's a super sweet like 1-inch red cherry tomato, which I could always use more of. And then another one in the fun variety is Midnight Pear tomato. I tried a similar one from Baker Creek last year that it was just okay. And so I'm trying this one instead because it fills the same gap. It's a pear shape and it's dark. The other one was chocolate pear, and I wonder if these will be similar, but this one says exceptional flavor. So I'm ready to be wowed. And that concludes my cherry tomatoes that I'm growing this year. And I really said to myself, like, I know what I like in a cherry tomato, and I'm really narrowing it down. But after looking and naming off the varieties, that's not a small list. So, who am I kidding? Next up in different categories is the red/pink big slicer tomato, which I used to think was super boring, and I only had a couple varieties, but I've really expanded my horizons. And it's one of my favorite ones. It's probably one of the biggest sections. Besides, I've lumped orange and yellow together, so that might beat it. But I also have I'm telling myself that I've narrowed it down, but not by much. Every year, I kick out the varieties that I was not absolutely wowed with, and I add in more because life is too short to have bland tomatoes. The first one is new to me this year. It's Prudence Purple. It says it's known for its very own distinct, sweet, and tangy heirloom flavor, and I'm here for it. It also is a big tomato, and when I want a slicing tomato, like I want a big, like monster tomato, personally. That's what I'm looking for. This is also new to me this year. Wood's Famous Brimmer tomato. And it says it produces monster 3 to 4 inch red fruit. which is exciting. Profitable harvest and juicy BLTs. And it says for fall, so it must take a while for this plant to mature, which is fine because when you're growing 200 tomato plants, there's others that'll get the ticket first. For one whole complete year, I called this Mississippi Love Apple. It's Missouri pink love apple. So, oops. But it's the same plant. It makes big tomatoes. One of my favorite ones. One of my favorite red varieties, at least. It says incredibly juicy and flavorful, which is what we're looking for in a slicing tomato. I grew this for the first time a few years ago, and I really, really liked it. It's a really productive plant. It makes like an ox heart shape, but it's not... It's in between a paste and a slicer. So it's not as like juicy as a slicer, but it's not like mealy and weird like a paste tomato. I really like it, and now I know why in the pictures of this they place the tomatoes upside down. It's because every single tomato will have unripe green shoulders, and that's just something, and they never ripen. You leave them on the table and it's still gonna be like a hard shouldered tomato, but I don't mind it because the flavor is so good. Really like this one. I gotta grow the classic beefsteak. There's nothing super exciting about it. It's just a big red tomato. It says it's very well suited for the Northeast U.S., but a good grower everywhere, so it must mature faster because typically the Northeast is a little cooler in the summer. Bonnie Best I've been growing for a few years, only because when you process as many tomatoes as I do, you really, like, I didn't grow this at first because I thought it was boring. But you come to like the qualities of a boring tomato because it's predictable. Every fruit is going to be this size. There's not a bunch that are cat-faced. There's not a bunch that have like weird spots and it's misshapen. You literally can core it and score it and go. This is a great canning tomato if you're like me and you don't love to grow paste tomatoes. I like multi-purpose tomatoes, which all of my tomatoes are multi-purpose because when I go to make something, I literally throw every tomato in. I don't care. Abe Lincoln, and I'm hoping this is the ticket because I've had different seeds. I've tried 2 different Abe Lincoln varieties because these are supposed to make ginormous red tomatoes, and in the past they've just been regular tomatoes. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but this is the 3rd company that I've gotten the seeds from, so let's try again. 3rd time's a charm, hopefully. And it's an old variety. This one I tried for the first time last year. I think this was new to Baker Creek. It might have been on the cover of their catalog if I remember right. It's the brown sugar tomato, and it's kind of like a saladette size. Like, it's not cherry tomato size and it's not slicer tomato sized. But it's supposed to be sugar sweet. And it says black tomatoes, famous for their rich, nuanced flavor. This is one of my favorite red varieties because it's like a pinky red, truly almost watermelon colored, makes giant fruit. And sometimes on bigger fruit varieties, it makes less fruit, but in my experience, this one still has good productivity. And it's huge. Like it could be this big of a tomato. Rose de Bern. And also, it has pretty good flavor, but all of them look like this. Like, there's not a bunch of weird ones. That happens sometimes in those fun heirloom varieties. They're all a little bit weird, but all of these are super easy to process. Granny Cantrell's, I grew this for the first time 2 years ago, I believe, and it's one of my favorite red ones. It makes huge plants, super flavorful, definitely on my forever I will grow list. I'm growing this, and we all know why, climbing triple crop, because Jess from Roots and Refuge loves this tomato, and I want to love it, and I haven't loved it yet. So maybe the 4th time is the charm. Maybe this year is the year that I'm going to love it. Mortgage Lifter. There's a couple different strains of this, I think, which is why this one says Radiator Charlie, but this is the only one I've ever grown of the Mortgage Lifters. And honestly, I only grew this in the beginning because it has a fun story. This guy was like majorly in debt, and he paid off his mortgage by selling tomatoes. So, big red slicer. I'm going to try Mamie Brown. I only bought this because this was a fun heirloom variety for one I've never heard of. But I got this at the Dollar General last year at the end of the season sale. And it says it was named after a West Virginia grandmother who always grew them. Perfect balance of sweetness and acidity. And I hope that one day someone names a tomato after me. Big Mama. This is new to me this year, and I'm only growing it because that's a fun name. Big Mama. But it says this tomato is amazing. Large, meaty, with a few seeds and the perfect balance of sweetness. From Pikeville, Kentucky. I'll try it. Trophy. This isn't a huge tomato, but it is super productive and super uniform and very easy to process. So that's why I'm growing at least a couple plants of that. Zapotic, whatever that is, pleated, because it's fun. It's like accordion shaped, like where they have like the ribs. Now, as a canner, this is your nightmare because there could be like weird stuff in the pleats of this. But for fun, in a basket with personality, this one fits. It's also known as the Oaxacan ribbed. It says it's a gorgeous tomato that borders on weird, which is my personality, I think. It said it's so heavily ribbed it'll make everyone scratch their head, but the taste is wonderful, and I love it. And then finally, I think I got these seeds in a seed swap. I've never opened them, but I need to grow it. It's Ace 55. It's like a classic old faithful tomato variety. It's also determinate. So I was thinking that if I grew a handful of those plants, I could make all of my tomato sauce at once. And then the rest of the season, I don't have to worry about making sauce. I can just enjoy the tomatoes because all of the things that I needed to can, I already did. That's the thought process, but we'll see if it actually happens or not. Okay, next category of tomatoes are the striped tomatoes. Now, a couple of these could have gone in a couple different categories, but I put them in here. Probably my favorite category just because all of them have big personalities. This one was new to Baker Creek. I'm pretty sure this year. It was the Rebel Starfighter, and doesn't that look fun? And it says it has large fruits. In the picture, to me, it looks like a cherry tomato. So I guess we shall see. But it says large heart-shaped fruits form beautiful radial streaks of purple, maroon, and green below dark purple shoulders. Perfect balance of sweetness and acidity. And I'm really excited to grow this. I'm going to put it in the front of my garden so I can remember where it's at. This one, pork chop. I don't think that I've grown this before, but it's like one of the older ones of Brad Gates varieties. It says it has sweet tomato flavor with hints of citrus. Doesn't that sound fun? I can't wait to try to taste the citrus. Ananas Noir. I've grown this for a few years now. It makes really big, juicy fruit, and the plant is super productive. So this one will probably always be on my grow list because it's pretty and it's productive. I grew this for the first time 2 years ago, I think, and it makes massive fruit. The biggest tomato out of my garden that year was this tomato. Now, this plant is not super productive. So if you're looking, like if you have a small garden and you only want things that are going to produce a lot, I don't necessarily think that I would grab this, but look how pretty it is, and it makes monster size fruit, and that's why I grow it. I could have swore I got the sister to this, and it's Orange Jazz. I'm excited to try this one. It says it's fruity and juicy with a crisp texture and complex flavor, so that's kind of strange, but I'm here for it. I'm going to try it. These two are very similar. I could pick one or the other to grow, but I don't want to because I love, this is probably one of my favorite of all time tomatoes, and it's the Pink Berkeley Tie-Dye. Outstanding flavor. The plant is super productive. It's relatively healthy, and it has a dark tomato flavor, which is, I'm realizing how many times I say my favorite, but I love dark tomatoes. And then this one, Large Barred Boar, is super similar. Prairie Fire, slightly bigger than a cherry tomato, like slightly bigger than Brad's Atomic Grape. But it says it's wonderfully crisp and juicy with intense flavor. I'm here for it. And then I don't have a picture of it, but trust me, it's beautiful. And it's super similar to the Pink Berkeley Tie-Dye, but this one's green with red and not red with green. And it might even top, I think I might like it more than Pink Berkeley Tie-Dye, and it's green Berkeley Tie-Dye. The flavor is just so good. So good. It's one of my favorites. Plus, when you cut it open, like it's a green tomato with like a red center. Love that. This one I grew for the first time last year, but once again didn't get to taste it. Alice's Dream. It's beautiful, and it says it bursts with antioxidants and an incredible depth of flavor. That's fun. Oh, look, I do have green Berkeley tie-dye. Here's what it looks like. Pulled that out of my memory. I must have two different packs. I got these seeds in a seed swap, but the plants are beautiful. Not the plants, but the fruit is like tangerine orange, but it has like black shoulders. It's called Lucid Gem. Super good flavor, or at least good enough flavor that I keep growing it, and I grow it because it's beautiful. I don't think that I grew this one last year. I think I kicked it out, but I'm willing to try it again. Chocolate Stripes. It says it produces rich, sweet, and earthy fruits. Its slightly metallic shimmer makes it an eye-catching addition to the garden. Doesn't that sound fun? I'm going to try it again. And then finally, Mr. Stripey. I've grown this so many times. It says it's high in sugar and low in acidity. So maybe if you have problems with indigestion, this might be one that would be good for you. But it says its vigorous vines require staking. So make sure that you pin that bad boy up before it runs away from you. And that concludes my striped-ish tomato varieties, because I do have more with stripes, but they fell into a different category. Next up is my second largest tomato variety, and it's the yellow and orange tomatoes. I don't know why I love them so much, because sometimes in an orange tomato, it can be kind of mild, or what I call bland. But I have hand-picked the tomatoes that really taste like something. This one, I'm not even going to attempt to say. Uluru Ochre? I don't know. Euchre? Ochre? Don't know. But how could I not grow it? It's burnt orange with green shoulders, and it's beautiful. It says it has otherworldly flavor. And now that I'm reading this, I better remember, because this is a dwarf tomato. It was specifically bred for small space gardeners through the Dwarf Tomato Project. It grows on a smaller, compact plant. So this might be a great one for somebody who has a smaller garden, or to put in a pot. This one is new to me this year too, Woodle Orange, and I'm only growing this because it's fun to say Woodle. It says it's a super fancy, large, round, tangerine-colored fruit. Incredibly rich, sweet, and complex flavor. So that's fun. I love this tomato, Amana Orange. It It says it's sweet and tangy flavors, mimic pineapple without the acidity. Now, I haven't ever, I'll have to go back this year and maybe think about pineapple when I eat it to see if I can hint of pineapple in there. I've never personally tasted it, but it is a really good orange tomato, and it's like neon orange. Persimmon is also another good orange tomato. This makes a really big tomato. It says it's a heavy yielder, low in acid, so it has a shorter shelf life, which is good to note. Like if you're going to leave your tomatoes like out on your counter while you do other things and live your life, maybe freeze this one or do something with it quickly, because it doesn't have enough acidity in it to keep it good for a long time. Also, one of my favorite orange ones, I've grown this so many times. It's a really round tomato. Dad's Sunset. It says it's very smooth, uniform, and keeps very well. I grow this because it's beautiful and it makes huge fruits, but sometimes a lot of them crack. You can even see in this picture. Sometimes the problem with heirloom tomatoes is that they crack and they have weird spots, and that's just their personality, okay? It's not going to be a Better Boy tomato ever. Its life is fleeting, so you just have to take in all of its quirks while it's here with you. Gold medal. This plant isn't super productive for me. I grow it because it's beautiful and it makes really big plants, or really big fruit. And when you cut it open, it's like tie-dye in the middle, which is one of my favorite qualities. Now, these two are super similar. Big rainbow, actually all three of these. Pineapple, gold medal, and big rainbow. I honestly could pick one of them to grow because they're all super similar, but I don't want to. I don't want to and I don't have to. But it says huge fruit to 2 pounds, delicious and sweet. Old German, honestly, could go in the same category as the other ones. But it says it produces jaw-dropping size fruits, and that is fun. I grow this one every year. One of my favorite oranges, I know I keep saying that, but that is the truth. I have so many favorites, but the flavor is super good on this. Thornburn's Terracotta, and the color is magical. It's a burnt orange all throughout the whole fruit. And it's beautiful. And you just don't see this color very often. So I'm like collecting the rainbow. Really good flavor. And this year I'm trying, I think I tried last year, but I don't think I got a single fruit off of it. Is its sister, Lemon Blush. So I liked this one so much that I had to try this one. It says it's large and juicy with tropical fruit notes. So that's fun. This was one of the first orange tomatoes I ever grew. Kellogg's Breakfast. This one and Dr. Witchy, which I also have and I also grow, but I don't need to because they're super similar. And it takes a lot for me to say that, but like similar enough that I don't really tell the difference. Ooh, one that is fun and it's productive, but it's like that weird size. It's like this big. Is Wapsipinickin Peach, because it's fuzzy like a peach. And even if that was its only quality, I would still grow it, but it's not. The flavor is really good. It's like one that I find myself like snacking on in the garden. Like while I'm harvesting, I'll pop that in my mouth and it's so good. And then the last three that I don't have a seed pack for, but I'll just tell you about it. Hughes. Now, I grew this one, and I don't remember it because I don't think that I grew it last year. And the only reason I'm growing it, it's like a yellow, more on the yellow side than orange. It's a yellow tomato, but it was bred in Madison County, which is pretty close to where I grew up. And so if it grew really well there, was bred there, I figured it's got to do really good in my area. So that's why I grow it. Virginia Sweets is a pretty good one. It's yellow with a red center. So when you cut it open, the outside's yellow and the inside is red. And it's beautiful and sweet and juicy. And I like it. I don't love it. I like it. And that concludes the orange and yellow tomato varieties. We're almost getting down to the end, you guys, but it's dark tomato time. I love dark tomatoes. I like the way they taste. They're normally really flavorful and beautiful in a basket. This one is new to me this year, Purple Rain. This is also on the smaller side of plant. It says tidy and compact 3-foot plants are smothered in purple beefsteak tomatoes. So this would be great if you were growing in a small space or wanted all your fruit at once, because I think it's a determinate tomato. No, it's not determinate, but it is a dwarf tomato. So I'm excited to see what that does for me this year. A classic, Brandywine Black. Brandywine was one of the most famous varieties of tomatoes. There's a red, a yellow, and a black, I believe. There could be more. I don't know. I grow this one every year. It's really, really good. These two are very similar. I grew this one first, Black Beauty, because as its name implies, some of the fruits are literally black. The more a black tomato is in the sun, the more pigmented it is. The more in the canopy layer, so underneath the canopy of the leaves, it will have more red tomato and less black, because the sun is actually what brings out the anthocyanin color in dark fruit. So the more you know. So even if you grow Black Beauty, if there's tons of leaves on it, they're not going to be completely black. But I grow both of these. They're very, very similar, but this one tastes better. This one's darker overall, but this one tastes better. This one's kind of bland, and the skin is super tough, so it lasts forever on your table, to be honest, but it's nothing to write home about. I grow it because it's beautiful and dark. This one, however, is really dark, mostly on the shoulders. You see this one was obviously in the sun more than this one. See how much darker this is than this one? But the flavor's better on this one, so I grow both. Woolly Kate Yellow. I grew this for the first time maybe in 2021, possibly, because I got the seeds in a seed swap, and I was like, oh, what's Woolly Kate Yellow? The whole plant is fuzzy. It's fuzzy. It's so fun. The fruit's okay, but, and it says it's recommended for hot, humid areas, so it must be able to withstand humidity a little better, and it says it's naturally pest and disease resistant. The fruit isn't really anything to write home about. It's fine. It's that weird size, the saladette size, but it's a beautiful plant because its foliage is like blue-green and furry, and I love it. Classic tomato, Paul Robeson. I'm pretty sure we're all growing this because Jess from Roots and Refuge said it's her favorite tomato, and it is really good. It's really good. But its shoulders are fun, or it's kind of a fun color because its shoulders are green, like dark green, and then a dark red. It's a pretty color. I'm not going to say it because I'm going to butcher the name. But the flavor's pretty good, and it's beautiful. Look at that. Look at the purple melting into the yellow. You do not see that. And definitely regular people don't see it. It says it's bursting with sweet, fruity, and complex flavor with just the right acidity. Tropical sweet with high antioxidant content, which is fun. So here's a tomato fun fact right in the middle of my show. But did you know that tomatoes, especially red ones, are one of the highest amounts of lycopene that you can get in like a garden food? And lycopene is an antioxidant, so it's going to strengthen your immune system, and it's more prevalent in fresh tomatoes than it is when you cook them down for like a sauce and things. So always eat tomatoes like an apple fresh out of the garden, because you're filling your body full of immune boosting antioxidants. There's your fun fact for the day. Black Sea Man, and I'm going to say that on purpose. say it like that on purpose. And these plants are super productive and they make big fruit and it's delicious. So I really like that one. Cherokee Purple, and I go back and forth on whether I grow this every year because it's just okay. It's like a classic that everyone knows and everyone grows, and you can get it at any farmer's market across the United States, but I still grow it. One that I think is slightly better and looks very similar is Carbon than the Cherokee Purple, because it says it's one of the most prolific tomato varieties in its category. It has a sweet and smoky taste. This one is new to me. It's a ribbed variety. It is a deeply ribbed dark red tomato that came from Mexico. Somewhat acidic, but very flavorful. That's fun. Purple calabash. Plus it's fun to say. And then finally, this one's new to me this year. It's called Black Russian. I don't have a picture of it, but I'll describe it for you. It's rich, smoky, sweet flavor, and it has large fruit and purple mahogany brown fruits, mildly lobed with dark green shoulders. That is fun. And then I got this seeds in a seed swap years ago, and I've never grown them. So I'm excited to see if I can get one or two to germinate so that I can taste it. But it's Sergeant Pepper's tomato, which I think I never grew it because I thought it was a pepper. Like, just sifting through my hundreds of seed packs, I think it just got tossed to the side. So I'm excited to grow this. It is an ox heart shaped tomato with dark shoulders, so that's fun, and I don't have one of those yet, so it kind of fills that gap. All right, I'm almost to the end. The next category is green tomatoes, and I don't grow that many green tomatoes because I'm not very responsible in remembering what I have and remembering to pay attention to when it's ripe. So when you grow green tomatoes, you really have to pay attention because they don't like turn a bright color to tell you that they're ripe. A lot of them do though kind of get golden hued green. Like a good example is this green zebra, one of my favorite green tomatoes. Typically green tomatoes are like a tangy tomato, so kind of a little bit sour. One of my favorite flavors because it doesn't taste anything like any other tomato. They're truly in a world of their own. But you can see this fruit that's not ripe is like green with light green, and the fruit that is ripe is green with yellow. So there are signs, and this one's an easy one to tell when it's ripe. But I have to put them at the beginning of my tomato row or they will get lost in the sea and I won't remember to check them. My favorite tomato variety of all time, my favorite green tomato variety of all time is Cherokee Green. Really, really, really good flavor. It's not super tangy, but it's just a different flavor. And the green on it is really pretty. It's not like bright green. It's not dark green. It's kind of like medium green. Green sausage. This is the first year that I've grown this. I think I tried to grow it last year, but once again got lost in the sea of tomatoes. Looks super similar coloring to a green zebra, but it's a fun shape. And then last but not least, Green Giant. It says it's the most productive, best tasting tomato in our trials. So I'm excited to try that one because I haven't in a couple years. I don't think I grew it last year. And that's all the green tomatoes. And the final category is my least favorite category because I don't care for paste tomatoes. I get that they serve a purpose, but I like to eat tomatoes like an apple in the garden, and these, I'm never going to do that. Growing this one only because the name is Sheboygan, and that's fun to say. So it's like a longer paste variety, and it must be from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Ooh, this one's new to me this year, and I am kind of excited for this one. Buratino, maybe? It says a Russian heirloom with perfectly balanced flavor and texture. All-purpose sauce, slicer, and snack tomato. Outrageous flavor, exceptionally high yields, hardy plants, and multi-purpose. Doesn't that sound fun? So I'm hoping that it lives up to its hype. Plus, it's a really fun shape. Every single year I grow Roma and striped Roma, and I will tell you this plant will die first. And I kind of have come to appreciate Roma tomatoes because it's a determinate tomato, so it puts on tons of fruit at once. So you can pick tons of fruit at once, and you can process tons of fruit at once. And when you're a canner, you kind of appreciate those things. So I can get behind it. Opalka. I like this shape of tomato. But it says it produces large tomatoes with minimal seeds. San Marzano, really, really close to Roma, if I'm going to be honest. It puts on a ton of fruits, mainly at once. You might get a second flush later on, but the Italians like that. And the Italians know about sauce, so I want to also know about sauce. So I grow that with the intention of making pure tomato sauce, like all red, and I never really do it. I always throw every tomato I have that day in the sauce pot. Amish paste. I'm trying this once again. The plants, every time I try them, are not very hardy. Like, they just don't hang around very long. They're always the first to die for me, but a lot of people love that variety, and I want to love it too. And so I'm trying it again, and if it really doesn't work this time, I'm really kicking it out of the group. But I'm giving it one more chance. And I just realized I forgot a tomato, and I think this one, this one goes in the yellow-orange category. It's called Copia. It's new to me this year. I needed one thing from High Mowing Seeds. High Mowing is kind of like Johnny's, but every seed is organic. So seeds really don't matter if they're organic in terms of planting them in your garden. Like, it's not going to make a difference. But when you are also growing organically, you know that the seeds that you buy that are organic seeds were also grown organically. So they're more likely to do better in the conditions that you are going to give them, because you're not going to baby them with like chemical fertilizers or pesticides or things. So a lot of times these are hardier varieties. And anyway, I'm excited. I fell down the rabbit hole. I needed to order one thing, shishitos, because I somehow didn't save any and don't have any shishito peppers, and these are my favorite peppers, so I had to get them. And then while I was there, I was like, I'm not just going to order one seed. I had like a dozen of things that I put in the cart because I didn't want it to be lonely on its ride to my house. Anyway, the Copia tomato says it's a juicy big tomato with lots of flavor. So I'm excited. And it's yellow with red pinstripes, which is so fun. I only grow fun things. That's a lie. I grow boring things too, but my most favorite ones are the fun ones. So, if you're still here by the end of this video, because this is going to be fairly long, you are my people. You are my tribe. You are my tomato people. And it's almost tomato time, you guys. I needed to start these 2 weeks ago. Have I? No. It's okay. It's okay. I just might get tomatoes like a week later than I normally would, but... So I'm really excited that it's almost tomato time. Truly, I do not start living until June when I get my first cherry tomato. And it's delightful, and I look forward to it every year because it's the little things in life that count, right? But this is where I leave you. This concludes today's video, so thank you guys for watching. Until next time.